Thus, Your Eminence Gyalwa Dokhampa Rinpoche, Your Excellency the Prime Minister, Excellencies, Tashos, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and a very warm welcome to the first RIGSS Dialogue of the year. We are indeed truly honored and blessed to have Rinpoche with us this evening to not only launch our RIGSS Talk events for the year, but more importantly, to really enlighten us on a subject that is most topical, most relevant and important for all of us Bhutanese and beyond Bhutan, especially in the current times, as individuals and as a nation, that is transformation. It is our hope to hear from Rinpoche this evening your wisdom and insights on the key foundations of human and societal transformation and the contemplative practices we must embrace for their sustainability. To briefly introduce Rinpoche, His Eminence Jigme Pema Nyinjadh, popularly known as Gyalwa Dokhampa, is widely known to be an extremely approachable contemporary mindfulness teacher, author, and speaker. Rinpoche speaks and acts from a point where Buddhism, mental health, environmental activism, and humanitarianism intersect. Rinpoche authored the book, A Restful Mind, copies of which are available here as well as the back, and we request all of you to grab one as you leave the hall later. And Rinpoche has given well-attended talks in many countries around the world. Rinpoche also has a podcast called The Restful Mind, where he discusses contemporary issues through the lens of mindfulness, compassion, and Buddhism. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Rinpoche. Last Rinpoche, it's such a blessing for me to be really having this conversation with you. To start with, Rinpoche, what really is human transformation within the context of personal growth and spiritual development? And what are some of the fundamental values and principles that guide human transformation?
With the deepest respect to His Majesty the King, with whose vision I think the RIGSS was established, as well as the peace and prosperity, spirituality flourishing in the country. The credit goes very much to His Majesty, deepest respect for that, and blessings of His Holiness, the Chekembo and the great masters I invoke, and respect to Mijil Lönchen and all the excellencies, and Dr. Gopin, and all the Tashos, and all the civil servants, all gathered here. My greetings, appreciation. And to be very frank, when I was first asked to do the talk about the RIGSS here, and I was quite astounded, because I know the RIGSS is about leadership, and especially to leadership of the nations. And here, I am surrounded by the great leaders of Bhutan who have led the country many times, and have come back again to lead also. So in such a, kind of, what do you call it, such an awe-inspiring audience, what is it that I, have to share? I have never led. I don't claim to be a, nation builder or great leaders. Then yet at the same time, I thought that since Tasho has kindly asked me to share, maybe there is something that I can share from the spiritual point of view, not myself as a leader, but seeing the Buddha as a leader, and all of us being led by him, the Chue as the path that he's leading us on, and ultimately the enlightenment, that is where we're being led to by enlightened being. Especially in the Mahayana teachings, is all about, if you look at it from another perspective, entire Mahayana practice is about leading oneself and others from the ocean of samsara with the method of wisdom and compassion. So many methods, if you look at it, the Mahayana teachings from that point of view is all about leadership. So I thought that maybe, indeed there are some things from the teachings of the Buddha, Guru, Shabdung that I can share. And firstly, I think about since we are also talking about the transformation, and Tasho rightly mentioned, the transformation is something that is a very hot topic nowadays. First and foremost, I think we all have to accept that transformation in any form is very painful. Because nobody wants transformation. And transformation is not something that is only happening now. It has been happening from the beginning of time in every aspect of life. Every gray hair that we can see is a transformation, which we don't want, right? And it's also not true that only when you have a gray hair that you are starting to transform physically. No, from the moment we are born, we have been transforming, from a baby to child to a teenager, adulthood, and it has been the transformation has been going on. Transformation going on in the mountain, in the river, even the Himalayan mountains growing at certain, I think certain rate, and the changes. And there's a transformation in the life, in the relationship, from the moment that I think you get married. It is the transformation, evolution has been happening all the time. So that's why we call, in the nicer way, we call it growth. Our revolution and relationship evolved in a much more deeper meaning. If you say it negatively, you were not like this before. Which is another way of saying, transformation. And it is true that transformation is a natural part of the life. It is something that is difficult for every one of us, but it is also something that if we accept it, then it becomes, the moment we accept it, it becomes much more bearable. And we also begin to see opportunities in the transformation, opportunities to accept the reality as it is now, and within that reality, what opportunities it brings, it brings also opportunities and the change. Anyway, it is something that happening all the time. We have to accept. But from another perspective, it is also true that, in this, while we live in this world, transformation is something that as the leaders, we have to accept, we have to, and not only accept it, I think in some ways, great leaders, they not only accept the transformation, but they even guide the transformation rather than a blind transformation that has a vision, out of compassion, out of wisdom, a transformation that leads to a destination. Right now, transformation is happening, but it's happening in our life without much of a direction, much of preparation. Right? I guess in individual life, preparing for transformation will be, I remember one of my friends, he said, nowadays he builds house. He builds it one story because he realized as you get older, it's difficult to climb up the stairs. That is, accepting the transformation. So we have to accept the changes that is happening in the world, in our country, in our society, in our life, and adapt and to work with it. That is, I think, we have to do it. But it's also at the same time, it's true that it's also, I feel, very important to give all of us the illusion that everything is permanent, at least from the general speaking. Because generally for people to accept transformation is very difficult. Imagine that when you are first getting married, if the person who you're getting married says that, I cannot promise to love you forever, because everything is transforming. After a few years, things might change. Then nobody will get married. If somebody said, oh, everything is changing all the time, what is the point of doing an economic activity? There will be no economic activity. Nobody will be doing anything. So at the same time, in generally speaking, all of us, we need the illusion of the, permanency is something very strong for all of us. I was reading somewhere that in the Western countries now, many young people don't want to get married or even have children because they feel that with the climate changes and economy, it's so unpredictable future. They don't even want to have children because of that there is no longer the illusion of permanency. The permanence is very important, but at the same time, for us, I think that it's also important for us to accept the importance of the feeling of permanency, security. But at the same time, if we can accept the reality, it prepares us much better for all the changes that we as a society and individual will have to go through. And coming back to, specific to Tasho, I think Tasho asked, what is the transformation within context of personal growth?
Personal growth, yes.
And spiritual development. So from the human development and from the spiritual development, we basically, when we strive for transformation, we strive for two development. One is compassion. And of course, compassion is something that is very much used by everybody in the religion. But every religion, I think in our development of spirituality, compassion comes from the idea that we live in a very interdependent world. When someone tells me that they are very independent, I always say, you must be born from a lotus, because you didn't have father and mother to depend on. As soon as you grow up, you can speak. So unless you are Guru Padma Sambhava, if you are, I fully bow down to you. From the moment we are born, we live in an interdependent world. And we grow up under the care of our teachers, our parents, family, the government, the leaders, environmental, and even when into our teenage hole also, we find meaning when we feel loved by somebody. Relationships are also interdependent. And as we go into adulthood, when we find purpose in our life, we find purpose when we can do something that has a positive impact in the society that we want to serve. So realizing that we live in an interdependent world. Since we live in an interdependent world, environmentally, society, emotionally, even emotionally speaking, when we understand that, then I think that what in our Bhutanese, we are very, familiar with the word Sampa Semket, comes about. Then we say we have to develop good Sampa Semke. So good Sampa Semke will be very hard to develop if you don't see the benefit of the Sampa Semke. And Sampa Semke has the Sampa means to able to think beyond oneself. And that also has a many level. Some are, some from the Chanchu Sempa's point of view, you have to think every mother sentient being. That's a great Sampa. Or it is just for your own country. That kind of great Sampa you have. Or maybe it's your own regionalism. Or maybe it's your own kind of organization. Maybe it's your own self that the Sampa is very small. So Semket means, Sampa means to have a positive, the compassion arising from the understanding interdependence. Semket means that every time, for example, when we do mindfulness, we say the meditation or any practice is a mindfulness. It doesn't have to be just meditation. Even if you do Benza Guru Pema Siddhong, that's also mindfulness. So before any practice, the first thing we always do is Sampa Semke. Because the Sampa, I think, that decides what is your motivation. Because everything will happen as a result of the action that arises from whichever motivation. And Semke means if our motivation is not good, then to expand it, to make it transformation. So I think the compassion, Nyingje, I think is the first one that developed. And I think even this emotional intelligence that is very popular. Some say EQ. I met the author also in New York recently. So we were even joking that he was saying sometimes he has misunderstanding his wife. I was saying, even you who is such an emotional intelligent. So he was saying he teaches it, but he fails to practice sometime. So he's a Buddhist actually. So even his words of the emotional intelligence arise from his understanding of the Buddha Dharma. And emotional intelligence can never arises when we cannot have a thought, an understanding that extend beyond oneself. How can we understand others when we cannot understand, when we cannot develop a sense of compassion? And then the second thing about the wisdom is actually, wisdom has many aspects. If we kind of Buddhist wisdom into very simple word, it just means that nothing happens by itself. Everything arises due to cause and condition. If there's environmental change, it doesn't happen by itself. There are many causes and conditions creating it. If you are a farmer, you know that if you just look at your field and just stay there waiting for the God to bless and the rice to come out, it will never happen. Everything arises due to cause and conditions. And because everything arises due to cause and condition, nothing has an individual reality. Reality is a conditional that arises due to. So grass that cow eats and digests becomes milk. Milk, if you put the right cause condition, becomes butter, cheese. So that means inherently there is no milk, there is no cheese when you take out the conditions that create things. So that is also why in the Buddhist meditations we always say anything is possible. There's nothing impossible in this world because nothing has inherent reality. You just have to have the right cause and condition. Anything is possible. So these two, development of compassion, to move beyond oneself and to understand the interdependent nature of the world in our life, and to understand the cause and condition, and to the wisdom that nothing has inherent reality. That is why anything is possible. These two are, I think, the most important transformation that in our spiritual path.
Last Rinpoche, thank you so much. If I remember correctly, in one of your teachings, one of your talks, you, I think, highlighted compassion and wisdom as, in fact, the necessities for someone to really have an enlightened mind, if I remember that correctly.
Yes.
So, for ordinary people like ourselves, mostly here public servants, is enlightenment a possibility?
I think recently I just finished 7 days of Dhamma retreat.
Yes.
And one of the most beautiful thing about the Tara retreat is that Chizen Dhamma was, the monks, they told her that if you want, we will make a prayer that in the future life you will be born as a man in all your next life and become a Buddha. But Chizen Dhamma at that time, the princess said that from her understanding, enlightenment has nothing to do with the physical body. It has to do with the understanding or ignorance. When you understand something completely, it's enlightenment. When you don't. So she said, I would prefer to be born as a female, as inspiration to all the females in the future. The enlightenment is available to all gender.
Yes.
So that's why, yes, I think, we can have, we may have also, Bhutan is such a spiritual country, we may have some tops hidden in the lumpos and dashos and secretaries. You never know, right? If we can see the great past Indian saints like Lam Drupakunle or Naropa, Tilopa, I don't think they will look like, right now wearing, orange kapnes. No, it's very hard to judge the enlightenment. It's to do with your mind, I think.
Last Rinpoche. Rinpoche, one thing that I think most of us are kind of confused with is about spirituality and religion, or being religious minded.
Yes.
What really is spirituality, and how different is it from religion or being religious minded?
Of course, there's some technicality. Some say that if you believe in a God, then you are religious.
Yes.
If you don't believe in a God, rather in the Buddhism, we believe in the cause and effect. Your own actions have consequences. So that's why. But I personally feel that religion is something that others can see.
Yes.
For example, we go to temple, we can see that. You give something to a dog, saying that chimbatando. You do a prostration. It is something that is religion, because something that sometimes confined to certain countries' culture. Indian will have a different way of doing prostration. The Bhutanese will have a different way of doing prostration. Different way of, maybe Indians will offer flowers and coconut. Maybe Bhutanese will offer doma, to the Buddha, right? Ematasi. When we say chip, we'll be offering, ematasi. So that part that can be seen is the religion. But the religion is a tool. It's like a boat that you need to cross the ocean. When we make an offering to the Sangye, and to Buddha, is the main thing that as a spirituality means that through the means of external generosity, what we are really trying to do is to develop a habit of generosity. That is the personality that we are trying to develop. When we do prostration, externally it's a form of respect, but internally we want to develop a personality that sees every being as equal. Due to tsengomagile, tsetaregi, maybe effort, now you have become the richest person in the world or most powerful, but that too is impermanent. Maybe right now you are not that, but that, so that the real meaning of prostration is to develop a sense of humility that does not say that I am a nobody, you look down, but rather it says that due to circumstances, somebody's become rich or poor, somebody's become, not doing so well. But that does not mean that you are better than somebody or worse off than somebody. Have a confidence in yourself based on that understanding. So the humility and the confidence is the spiritual part we need to develop. The method is the prostration. Similarly, the chanting, the mantra. When we talk about a mantra recitation, people think that it's only about Om Ahom Benzam Guru Pema Siddham, the sound. The word, the mantra in the Sanskrit, man means mind, tra means to protect the mind. Because every time when we are doing recitation, if there is a mindfulness element of it, then it protects us from the ignorance, from the negative emotion, and keeps our mind aligned with the wisdom and compassion. So the mantra, the recitation is, I think, the religious part. The awareness and the compassion it develops is the spiritual part. So I will say religion is the tool and spirituality is the transformation within our mind. Is that clear?
Yes. Rinpoche, one thing that I really personally wish to explore today with you is, as you mentioned, we are mostly Buddhist in Bhutan, and many of us, in fact, I'm sure today also, though we have people from different backgrounds in the audience here, we are very spiritual, very religious minded, largely. And one thing I would really want to really hear from Rinpoche is how does or how should individual transformation lead to societal transformation? So, for example, in the public service, again, largely because we are all mostly Buddhist and very spiritual, we sometimes even bunk offices and go for Chishilirim and teachings and things like that. How shall that transform, or what should we bring from all those Dharma teachings or spiritual teachings into our workplace and help transform the society, deliver better services, or whatever? How can we be a better society when we have more transformed individuals?
I think a few days back we were sharing this. It's kind of a joke. I think Tasho also heard that joke. That there was a very beautiful doctor, and the patient had, I think, surgery. And then when he woke up, I think he fell in love with the doctor and said, "Doctor, you stole my heart." And suddenly she got very nervous and guilt on her face and said, No, that's not me. I only stole your kidney. That must be some other doctor. That was the guilt made her say that. No? So, so I feel that whether you are a doctor, whether you are a politician, whether you are even Lam Rinpoche, businessman, civil servant, it's very important to have a good motivation. Because when we talk of Le Jumde is divided into three things. Sem gi le, lui ki le, nga ki le. The actions of the body, speech, and the mind. But it is clearly stated that the actions of the mind supersedes the action of the body and speech. Because body and speech does what the mind wants to do. And the mind, whether it is transformed or not, I think there's no medicine you can take to transform your mind. The only way to transform our mind, is through the spiritual path. And once that is transformed, the way we converse, the way we do, as a politician, I feel that if you have that kind of Samba Semke, even through becoming a politician, I will say you might have a politician Sangye also. You never know. No? Because when you look at the biographies of the Buddhas were not always monks. They came as a king, they came as a prince, as a businessman and a woman. Buddha took 500 different kinds of life as an animal. But one thing that stands out the Buddha is the Samba Semke. And as we mentioned back, one of the main defining features of the Buddha Dharma, Buddhist follower, is the belief in the Le Jumde. But the belief in the Le Jumde is not restricted to, just offering karma or doing money or killing some in this dikpa. It means that everything we do arises from causal conditions. In a simple way, I say that I jokingly joke with the Westerner, they are not used to Le Jumde. I always say, in the morning if you have argument with your wife, evening you will not get dinner. That is Le Jumde. Le Jumde is not very complicated thing. So that's also why I think the Buddhism, we have a lot of freedom, because we say that Guru Rinpoche, Buddhas and Lam Rinpoche will never judge you. But you have to know that every action that you do has the consequences in a society, in your organization, within your personal life, even your health, what you eat, how you think, what mentally you consume. Social media, through what you consume, transforms your belief, your values. So everything that we do, say, has consequences. And that is meaning of the Le Jumde. Say Le Jumde, is everything we do. Even the construction, there's a Le Jumde. If there's engineer will look at the thing, I think looks like the beam is a bit too weak. It will not be able to take the weight of the floors. That is Le Jumde, cause and conditions. So I think that the inner transformation, if we have that Samba Semke, good compassion plus the wisdom, then whatever we do, it's not coming out of blindness, but it is coming out of a positive intention and with wisdom. And then the word that we say is arising. Word we are saying is not out of hatred, not out of ignorance, but every word we say will be used as in a way that has an impact on other person. And it is true. The words have so much impact. And every action we do will have an impact. And every action we do not do also has an impact. So transformation of the individual mind leads to individual's behavior, speech, and that, I think, can have many chain effects in the society.
Last, Rinpoche, you have, I think, highlighted the importance of inner values and inner transformation, inner engineering. How can government policies kind of help support the growth of the inner values of individuals, whatever we do? Because ultimately, Rinpoche, basically what you're saying is the speech and the body is basically kind of servant of the mind. Yes. So ultimately, it all rests with the mind. So while we largely as a Buddhist society have all these opportunities to develop the spiritual mind, transform the mind, Rinpoche, do you think we can have government policies directed specifically to promote these kind of spiritual transformation or inner transformation of individuals?
Few years ago, I watched Your Excellency's TED Talk on GNH, and I was really, impressed. I learned a lot. So for me personally, I have been very, have a deep respect for the GNH values, the 4 pillars of GNH. And I think that, I'm sure, Bhutan has been doing and continues to do so, and I think in the coming years, even more so. I think within that GNH value, it is very clearly stated how to develop, for example, even in the good governance, I think that there are values embedded in the social policy, right? I think I read here in the Central Bhutan Studies website, in the good governance, it says that there are number tools and process employed to ensure that values are indeed embedded in the social policy. So policies are formed by the leaders. So whenever we leaders, I'm sure that they are doing to and continue to. So I think that when the leaders are making policies, every policy has, every action has the consequences. So when these policies are put into action, what are the ways that we can do that will, of course, have the economic benefit that we need, by at the same time minimizing the impact on the GNH values, social values, cultural values that we have. Right? I think that is, we have to develop. And also I feel that, I don't know much about economics, but from what I understand, Bhutan's one of the major contributing of economy is the spirituality and culture of Bhutan. I have been to all around the world, and always, even the people who are not Buddhist, who are very kind of critical of Buddhism, the Buddhism, and especially Bhutan, they say, Bhutan cannot be that happy, that wonderful. Even just recently, from Singapore, they were saying that when they went to Bhutan, they felt a peace of mind. When they met the Bhutanese people are so kind, so, the hospitable. Of course, when we are in Bhutan, we don't see that too much because everything is a relative, Compared to a very black person, we look fair. Compared to Chinese, we think, I am also dark, Everything is a relative. So when we're in Bhutan, we don't really appreciate that, But when you go out, recently I was in New York, and one of my family members went with me to meet all the Himalayan community. They said every Himalayan community has devotion to Buddha Dhamma, but when it comes to Bhutanese, their Tiglam Namsha, their behavior, their way of showing respect to the Dhamma is amazing. And why is that? Is it because if a scientist goes and checks, is there something special in the blood of the Bhutanese that is beyond A, B positive, and there's something called C positive? I don't think so. I think again, whatever the qualities of Bhutanese and Bhutan has also arises due to cause and condition. And that cause and condition credit will go back to Guru Rinpoche, Shabdrung, successive Buddhist kings, spiritual teachers, and our ancient, all the teachers, our parents, value they have developed, that evolved. So I think that, and in Bhutan, when you talk of the economically, people come from the culture, which also arises from our spirituality. And when you talk about people being very kind, compassion, that also arises from our value, spirituality. So in a way, I think the spirituality has contributed, a lot, even in terms of economical. Of course, we don't like to think that because I think Buddhist people are very pure, They think that money and chue is different, Religion is above politics, above money. So we don't think of that. But if you kind of connect it, I think that spirituality is a very important part of that. So I think recognizing that and the policies, and I think to, to preserve that, to flourish that, I'm sure that will have an impact.
Less.
First thing is to recognize it. Khache
Less.
is, I think that, recognition, I think, even if it's environment, I think we have to, recognize that Bhutan has done a wonderful job in preservation of the 75% of the Bhutan as a forest. We have done it, and because of that, at least in Bhutan, we don't have to talk about today, PM level is something out. Please don't go out, buy air purifier in home. It is not there in Bhutan right now. It's because the policy was recognized, policy was drafted and implemented.
Last, as Rinpoche knows, the RIGSS is a leadership institute, and I would like to specifically get Rinpoche's insights on what we as a leadership institute, or what we as leaders, we have many leaders in the hall today, what insights can we draw from Buddhist teachings when it comes to leadership?
I cannot claim to lead a very big organization and have experience, but at the same time, it's also true that we do lead more than 200 monasteries across the Himalayan region, international centers in more than 30 countries. So in a way, people are the same. People are people. Of course, the culture and the spiritual value makes some people a little bit more kind of, the better, more, the thing. But generally, so I, from the spiritual point of view, when we talk about leadership from the spiritual point of view, we talk of four things now, four essence of leadership, if we translate into English. The first is, whom do you want to lead? So when we want to lead, first we have to, defined who are we working for? Who is, who do we want to lead? So from the chair point of view, you'll say, Manjur Nangpadanya Besimshin Tamche. But I think from the, if it's your own individual organization, or at what level, we have to, I think, firstly identify whom do we want to lead. Is it organization as a whole? Is it your country, or is it just your family, or is it much smaller? Who do we want to lead? Is the identifying whom we want to lead, Gangti. Then the second is Gangdut, Gangti. The second is, how do you want to lead? So how do we want to lead means that when we lead the people, usually there are, from my understanding, there are, two ways to lead people. Because in the human being also, we have positive and negative side within all of us. We have Chamba Nyingje, compassion. Also, we also have a greed, fear, insecurity. So when we lead, I think we have to choose the two ways. Either we have to appeal to the negative part of the, negative part of the human beings. So then we have to use greed. Maybe we have to use intimidation, insecurity, fear. All the negative part we have to evoke, and then we have to lead through fear, insecurity. That is one way of doing it. And then, if it's a financial, then it becomes a very transactional way of leading somebody. Another way of leading somebody, I think, which, of course, the Mahayana part advocates, is leading someone with the compassion and wisdom, which means that we human beings have usually I think we have two needs, psychological need and physiological need. So physiology need, I think for everybody needs money, needs a house, needs a car, needs a financial stability. It's true, that's undeniable. But beyond that, I think that we human beings also need to feel a sense of purpose, a sense of being appreciated, sense of being valued, so the sense of being respected, right? Regardless of what your position is in the organization, that you are appreciated, you are valued, you are respected, is, I think, equally important. Both of these are equally important. Of course, from our spiritual side, I think sometimes we tend to, I think, not give too, everybody, I think from other side, they give too much importance to the physiological side. Sometimes spiritual side, we forget about the physiological side. Because I remember once we had a big event and we hired some foreign translator, and I think we forgot to pay them. It's not that we didn't want to pay them. Then they sent a letter saying, oh, I met Gyalwa Dokhampa. He shook my hand, thanked me from the heart. But after that, I didn't get anything. No. So it is true, that we need to serve because we are living. This mind is living in the body. So to survive, you need house, money. True. But after some time, that is also not enough. We also need to feel that even though we are a newcomer to organizations, we are appreciated, we are respected, that we are cared for by our leaders. Right? Because we talk about, especially, and when we go that direction, then I think the tatamsi also comes. If we are into a very transactional relationship, there's no tatamsi needed. It's just about contract. I will do this work, you pay me this work, that's it. It's a contractual, there's no need of tatamsi. Maybe transparency and legality is there, but if you can do it, get away with doing crime legally, people will do it. But when it comes to the leading others with the wisdom and compassion, then I think the tatamsi, lejumde, loyalty, appreciation, going beyond our capacity, these relationships are formed, when we lead through this. And that's, I think, what successive kings of Bhutan, have inspired in us, especially in all the Bhutanese people. That is the reason why I think that Bhutanese, I think the volunteers like Desup and all, they go above and beyond. And the thing is, in order to kind of lead in that way, I think it's very important to understand, remove some biases. If I may share a story, a few years ago, I was traveling in a train in the United States. So at that time, there was on the aisle side, there was a wife, and the husband was there. And then one passenger lady came, and I think the wife's leg was sticking out a little bit. So the passenger hit her leg. Then the husband immediately apologized. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry, And then to his wife, he gave a scolding. So I was in that side, I was thinking, of course, it's very good that he's polite and apologizing to the passenger. But I was thinking, at the end of the day, this is also his wife, her life partner who has been with up and down. But not even a hesitation in the scolding his wife, I was wondering, why is it like that? And I'm not saying we are all like that. And I realized that it's because whenever we label somebody, we form a biases. So the moment we say, somebody's my wife, even if she cooks for you whole life, we don't feel like saying thank you. Why? You are my wife. And your husband works whole life in the office, getting soda from the boss, doing what not has to be done. But the wife will never say probably, thank you. Why? You are this, you are Genkuru, right? If somebody stranger gives you 1,000, so you are a Chanchu Semba. You gave me 1,000 ultam. If our parent gives us 1 lakh, say, why not to me, right? Because the moment we label somebody as our father or our children or a boss, all boss are gundas, all workers are lazy people who don't want to work. When we put this kind of label, we forget the human being behind that label. Boss, husband, wife. Before somebody is your boss, employee, employer, worker, there is a human being. And that human being wants happiness, doesn't want suffering. So if we want them to work hard, if we want them to have a tatamsi, are we creating the condition for them to have tatamsi towards our organization, to a leader? Are we meeting their physiological need? Are we meeting their psychological need? I think that that part is very important. That's why I was saying Lejumde goes beyond, just offering kame or it means that even tatamsi and the loyalty, everything has to be, a condition has to be created in order for tatamsi to be developed in all of us, in the organization, in the worker. And the last one is, where do you want to, Number third is, first is who do you want to lead? Second is how do you want to lead? Do you want to lead with the compassion and wisdom? And the wisdom part I forgot to mention is that the wisdom part is that, yes, it's true that, when you understand this others, we understand what drives them, what is their wish, usually people are driven by wish to be happy. Their definition of happiness can differ individually, and their definition of suffering is also very individualistic, But generally like that is, I think we kind of understand that. And then the wisdom part needed is that just because you understand them, their wish and their wish to avoid suffering, what they want, what do not want. The wisdom, compassion part is understanding. The wisdom part is understanding that it is not necessarily always to give people what they want. Rather, we should give what is good for them, good for organization. If you understand alcoholic from compassion, you know what they want. But if you give them, there's a compassion, but there's no wisdom. So that's why, compassion doesn't only mean, compassion without wisdom is a blind. So we need to know that, yes, we understand through others through compassion. Our policies, action we do is driven by compassion. But in order to achieve that, we also need the wisdom, because nothing is, has a one fixed reality. Every reality is a conditional reality. So every individual, we may have to treat with a different situation. That is why in the Buddha's teaching, it is said that when the Buddha's lead sentient being, it is not just through peaceful means. There's 4 ways of Shiva, Gyeba, Wang, Chakpo, peaceful way, commanding way, wrathful way, the expansionist way. There are 4 different ways Buddhas lead and benefit other sentient beings according to the situation. I remember a few years ago we were doing a talk in Hong Kong, and they were talking about what is the most important part of organization. And I was saying is probably the HR, human resource manager, is very important. Because from a human resource, and I will say that Buddha is a great human resource manager. One of the titles for a Buddha is called Kebu Durve Khalu Gyurwa, which means the great charioteer who tames the sentient being. Because the charioteer knows that if the horse is very wild right now, sometimes you need to let it be. Sometimes you need to scold it. Sometimes you need to tie it with other well-trained horse so that the horse also gets trained. You need a different method to tame the horse. Similarly, I think the HR also, human resource officer, also needs to know that fundamentally we wish everybody to be employed doing well, but we also have to recognize every individual have a different level of growth, different level of capacity. So without giving up on them, I think we give jobs according to their capacity, and if they evolve, we can move them up. So I feel that wisdom, compassion and wisdom is the how do we want to lead. And then the third is, from where do you want to lead? So I think from our chair we will say, from Khamsum Khorwa we want to lead. Because we understand that Khamsum Khorwa is not a place we want to be. Similarly, I think in organization probably we have SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. So from that point of view, we understand where we are as organization, what are our strengths, what are opportunities, what are weakness, what are threat. And also we recognize our strength, because we don't want to transform into organization where you may develop certain other benefits but lose certain qualities that we have right now. For example, I am sure that we want to develop as a country, but economically we want to be the best. But I don't think we also want to lose Tathamsi, Lejumde, Chamnyingje, social cohesion, spirituality. We don't want to lose that. So I think we have to, the third is, from where do you want to lead them? Where are we right now? Recognizing that is the number third. And number fourth is, I think, where do you want to lead them to? Which is what kind of a vision you have. If we reach that, then how will our society look like? Or how will individuals look like? Or from a chair point of view, they will be full of compassion and wisdom and become fully enlightened Buddha. So these are the essence of leadership that we teach, we are taught when we start our practices. Whom do you want to lead? How do you want to lead? From where do you want to lead? And where do you want to lead them to?
That's Rinpoche. That's very useful, and I'm sure our audience here have lots to take away from, particularly this particular subject. Definitely for me. Rinpoche, we are, of course, as you know very well, going through very exciting times, and we cannot really in Bhutan talk about transformation and not talk Gyalwa mindfulness city. So we, as a country, we have now embarked on literally building a new city from scratch, one of a kind in the world, the Gyalwa mindfulness city, as envisioned and led by His Majesty the King. It will be a global metropolis built on the foundations of values, spirituality, and sustainability, as we understand it. Rinpoche, in the creation of this city, how do you envision the integration of spiritual values and environmental stewardship with economic prosperity to foster holistic well-being? In essence, in other words, what I'm asking is, in your view, how will Gyalwa mindfulness city manifest the core essence of cross-national happiness?
There's a saying in the Himalaya that in the Indian tradition, Buddhist tradition, that all the Indian masters, whenever they want to meditate, they always look for a hill. Even in India, it's not a big hill in the plains, it's a small hill. They will look for a hill to meditate. And I always wondered why it was, but then later I came to realize that when you are too much into something, you can't see everything, you can't see the whole picture. So when you're a little bit, if you're in the Samtengang, you can see the whole. If you're a city planner, probably you go to Samtengang or Buddha Point and then plan the whole, the city. Similar like that, I have a full faith and belief in His Majesty's, wisdom and compassion. Compassion we have seen throughout the year, especially during the COVID times. I think His Majesty almost bankrupted, He's personally giving out so much generosity, endangering his life, and His Majesty wisdom, not only His Majesty's vision, but wisdom of successive kings is embodied in His Majesty. So whatever His Majesty, I feel like we are very much, seeing things from our perspective. For myself, I'll probably see it from spiritual perspective, how to preserve the Buddha Dharma, how to flourish. But that's my agenda. And other economic will economics. So His Majesty has a kind of a vision from the Buddha point of view. So I can't say that I understand full of what His Majesty's vision is. But from what little I can understand and what a little bit I learned, and I also ask people around. When I talk to some of my friends, in the Bhutanese civil servant, my friends, so they told me that, with the Gyalwa, the mindfulness vision, they are very comfortable, that they are familiar with. And then when I go around the world, I have been, talking to the business leaders and leaders around the world about the Gyalwa mindfulness, how wonderful it's going to be, what are the visions. So anyway, my point is going back to that is, so when I was thinking about what did the civil servant mean by this is something we are familiar with, so we are confident. So I was thinking, is my own interpretation, maybe, one of you are here too, my friend, so you may know what you really thought, but my interpretation is that Gyalwa mindfulness city is what Bhutan is right now. Bhutan as a country. It's not something that's going to very drastically, something that, it is basically Bhutan as a country, of course it's going to be much more advanced, modern, technologically high, economically, from economic perspective, of course there are so many things, it's going to be lot of difference. I can understand the road quality, the international hospital, the standard, and that part. But that part I am not that the qualified to speak about. But I feel that basically the Gyalwa Mindfulness City will be a kind of a version of Bhutan, because I feel that Bhutan as a country is a mindfulness country, because Bhutan, the spiritual values are very much embedded in Bhutan, and all the all the teachings that Lam Rinpoche give, all the temples we have, all the spiritual activities, these are happening. And as you mentioned earlier, even the tourism is very much related to the culture, people's mental. I think that, so from my side, I will see that these values that we have in Bhutan will be transferred to Gyalwa. And I think the people from outside will have the opportunity to, live in the country, live in the society where these values are emphasized, values of gross national happiness, the spirituality, compassion. They will have opportunity to be part of that. So that is my understanding.
Last Rinpoche. I have few more questions, but maybe I will reserve it for the end. Maybe at this point we will open the floor for some questions from the audience.
Last.
So anyone who wishes to raise questions, please raise your hands and we will get the microphone to you. In the interest of time, we request that you keep your questions to just one, and kindly briefly introduce yourself. Les.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor and a privilege to listen to you, Rinpoche. My name is Lobsang Lima. I work for the Royal University of Bhutan. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank you. Back in 2016, you named my daughter, and we met in the Mountain Echoes in the Indian Embassy. My only question, it's rather a longer question, I'm really sorry, Rinpoche. How do we even measure progress in spiritualism? Or how can we judge ourselves as if in saying I was more spiritual than this year? Or is it even advisable to measure your own spirituality, not judging others, but oneself? That's my question, Rinpoche. Thank you.
I'm very happy that we met and I was able to share the blessing of the Kunchasam in naming your daughter, because whenever we name, we always pray to Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and then whatever name comes to our mind, we give it. So if it's a good name, the credit. If not, it's not me, it's also up. So I think that the whole essence of spirituality is about analyzing oneself and seeing that there is a story that in the past there was one master. He used to keep black stones and white stones, and every night he used to count what are the negative things I did today, what are positive things I did today. In the beginning, it used to be all the black stone. In the evening, it was, after a few years, it was more white stone than black stone. So it is very true that spirituality is about judging yourself. And judging yourself also, there is a way of spirituality, way of judging yourself is a very different way than normal people, how they judge themselves. Normal people, when we judge, we say, if we judge, sometimes, of course, we don't judge at all. Because when we see inside, we feel very, it's very ugly, too ugly to bear. We prefer not to look at the mirror. Direct from toilet, don't look at the mirror. We are not too happy with how we look, that is one way. And even when we look, we kind of, abuse ourselves, put ourselves down. Spiritual way of judging is that even when we do Shakpa purification, we say that fundamentally, nature of every being, including myself, is good. Because if the fundamental nature of everybody is bad, it's like asking somebody from Africa, please put fair and lovely, you'll become fair. You can't. I'm not saying dark is bad. I'm just saying, if fundamental nature of is people bad, Why do we even practice? Why do we give advice to our children? There's no point. The fundamental nature of every being is a Buddha, yet due to the habits that we have formed, habits of past life, habits of this life, right? When we come out of mother's womb, nobody comes out with the, Jack Daniels, in one hand, It's the habit that we pick up, habit of, selfishness from what we see, our environment, what we see in our home, teacher, society. We usually become what the society reward us for. If the society appreciates, recognizes person with integrity, honesty, the humbleness, then we all strive to become that. If the society recognizes someone who can be, as long as you are rich, how you became rich, how you did it, it doesn't matter. We as society praise that person, give the medal to that person. Everybody else will try to become that. So that is why when we judge from spiritual point of view, fundamentally everybody has a Buddha nature, but by habit we have become negative. So even when we do Shakpa, we say, I am not fundamentally alcoholic, but due to the habit, due to the condition, I have become negative. So I do Shakpa. And I understand every day is a new day. Buddha has said, if you want to see your past, look at your present. If you want to know your future, look at what you are doing. That means every day we have opportunity to change our future, individually, society, country. So that is how we as a Buddhists, when we judge others, in a one way we are honest with ourselves, but without losing confidence and without putting down our fundamental nature. That is the Buddhahood. If you disrespect your fundamental nature, you will never have the confidence to improve yourself.
Last.
Hello, I'm Sonam and I'm the Royal Civil Service Commission. Rinpoche, I feel so blessed to come here and listen to you. I feel so fortunate to be born during your time. And Rinpoche, you have touched many of our lives in more ways than one. My question is actually based on the observation that I made during the many Tara retreats that are conducted up there. In the civil service, if you try to understand whether an event has been successful or not, we talk in terms of key performance indicator. So from my observation, I feel that the Tara retreats are very successful because three things that I always notice is that there are always people keep going back, so recurring visitors back to the Tara practice again. So that is one. And then the second one is there is always a behavioral change. So, and the behavioral change is demonstrated in terms of their conduct. They actually practice, and if they don't practice, at least there is an awareness. But in the civil service, we always struggle with behavioral change. And because of that, then the way we go forward is, we legislate, we enforce, and then we impose penalties. So just wanted to also, Rinpoche to share with us how you bring about this behavioral change, and if you could share with us how you go about with that. Thank you very much.
I came to Bhutan when I was 20 years old to study in Tango because my teacher had passed away that time, my teacher who grew me up. So I think my own teacher was worried that I'll become a wild Rinpoche. And that time, I think the Bhutan, especially Tango, was one place, middle of forest, there's no way to become wild. And I remember very clearly when I first came to Tango, only thing I can hear was the sound of the river. And I was thinking, that suddenly from the very noisy, city to suddenly to quiet, it's amazing. It was also a frankly difficult adjustment. So over this, and when I first came, it was through the kindness of His Honest Jigme, His Majesty the Fourth King. So that time the country was ruled by a fourth king. Then I think His Majesty the King, Trongsa Penlo. Then the democracy, So I think almost now 22 years I have seen, the transition of the Bhutan. I have, seen with my own eyes. So I think that, that I think we have to ask ourselves, that during these transitions, what has been our priority? Have we, as a country, as an individual, and have we given priority to developing the Samba Semke or not? No? Because as we mentioned earlier, the behavior, speech and the action arises from the Samba Semke. And if there is no conducive environment, of course, individually, the organizationally, Chapje Rinpoche is doing at such a grand level. Many other masters also in Bhutan, I think the Chapje Namkhin Nyingbo, Zongsa Khense, many other Rinpoches in the East, they're all doing it to Samba Semke, perform at the policy level, government level. Have we given importance or not? That is something that I think, over these years, what has become priority? Has economic become the utmost priority, and spirituality, culture, a little bit less so? Right? Because culture preservation, I think we have to preserve not only the outer culture, the design, the clothes and so on, also the living culture. And the living culture means Tatamzi, Chamnyingje, Samba Semke. So I think that is something, and I personally feel that His Majesty's vision of the Gelifu is kind of going back to the importance of spirituality. The mindfulness is the primary aspect. And of course, His Majesty knows there's not only physiological but psychological need. For that, we need economic activity. That's why I think the best hospital, many investment opportunities, etc. But the priority for the mindfulness city is on development of the Samba Semke. And mindfulness to me doesn't mean that tomorrow every leader will have to, meditate and do for 5 minutes. Every civil officer will say, ting, and then we all meditate. Now we are in the mindfulness city. I don't think so. It means that through whatever means, maybe some they like to do Nekor, some they like to do Chetan Kora, some they like to do Benzav Guru, some they like to do Nyungne, some, they just like to do 5-10 minutes of morning meditation. But that whatever we are as a leader, businessman, Lam Rinpoches, teachers, that we all start our day and life with a good Samba Semke. I think that is, for me, my understanding of mindfulness city means that. And mindfulness, I think we need to broaden a little bit, because right now when we see mindfulness, we see it only from one perspective, because in the Western countries, since they are not a Buddhist, many other methods, for example, prostration, chanting, etc., is too religious, so they need to sanitize it. So they only do one part, that is staying like this and doing, because it doesn't look very religious. This is more marketable. So only that part was taken out. But the Buddhist understanding of mindfulness, not just related to that, they are much more. Anything and everything we do that transforms our motivation, transforms expands our heart to include not only yourself, but your family. Not only your family, but your society. Not only your society, your country, and if possible, all the mother sentient being is a mindful practice.
Lastly, any more questions? Maybe we should give one of the students the mic.
Hello, thank you so much, His Eminence. I would like to, maybe it's already correlated, and maybe I think maybe some of it is already answered. But I wanted to ask, how can we have a systemic change? For instance, for me, it's only been a year that I have been working in Bhutan. And what I observe is, like each individual as a person, they are very good. They all want to see the transformation. They want to see the changes. But somehow we already have this system which has so much of negativity, which is very rigid, which is not impenetrable. So how can we address to have a systemic change? And also in line with that, what I have felt is, as a youth, as a new person, we are very energetic, innovative, creative. But as we join in the civil service, we somehow get lost into it. Like Madam was saying, we get so much into these indicators and other things, and we also become very rigid. Somehow we become very rigid, and we are not very open to new idea. We are not. We start to build mistrust towards youth and new ideas. And if the question is similar, I also wanted to ask what kind of psychological policies and activities we can have in place for civil servant. Because I think for physical thing, we have lots of policies and activities, but when it comes to mental health, right now, in our organizations in Bhutan, we do not have policies or activities that can address the mental well-being. Thank you.
Firstly, I must confess that I have not joined Bhutan Civil Service. Not yet. So it's very hard for me to, it's very hard and also unfair of me to say things which when I myself have not been part of it, it will be unfair of me. So, however, maybe from my own personal observation, or maybe just my, thinking part, I think that, when we are young, we have a lot of creativities. But it is true that in a society, we need creativity. It's true, creativity. But we also need certain form of structure. If it's only creativity, traffic rule will change every month from creativity of the traffic police, and we'll have a lot of car accident, right? So we need systems, true, but systems should also be flexible, because every system is not ultimate truth come down from the divine being. It's also created by the cause, by at that leaders and society at that level to serve a certain need that was felt during that time. So when the society changes, the system may also need to change. So we need creativity also. We need also continuation and the system too. That is why in our, many people, even though we are Vajrayana country, we think that Vajrayana is very esoteric and something that, I remember nowadays is better. Before, I remember when the young people used to come to join teaching, the parent used to say, Chö is something you only do when you're old. Right now, no need to do Chö. Nowadays, of course, with the mental health, people say, please go and join the retreat. The parents are sending, it's a change. But all the visualization that we do is visualization by itself is a tool to understand the nature of reality. So that is why in the visualization there is a male Buddha visualization and female Buddha visualization. Male Buddha visualization, for example, Om Mani Padme Hum, when we do the mantra visualization, it always goes in a clockwise, which means that we need system, we need this glass, we need to call this cup where we can put the water. We need the structure, we need the system, the existing part. And whenever you do female nga mantra, Om Tare Tutar, for example, it always goes anti-clockwise, because female represents creation, destruction, because whatever system we have is not the ultimate truth given by God, it's created by with a lot of cause and conditions. And because it is conditioned, it is not ultimate truth. System has no ultimate reality except that was created. So that means that when we need it, we have to have the creativity to able to create a new system, changes in the system if needed. But we also cannot discount the importance of the system and stability. Both of these are needed. That is why I think, I guess for a civil servant to keep changing all the time will also bring instability, you know. So I guess for a newcomer, probably you join with a lot of creativity. It takes a lot of you to get used to the structure. You know, you have to give up your creativity. And suddenly somebody is challenging that you sacrifice so much years to get used to it. You become resistant to it, you know, because you sacrifice so much to become rigid. So why do you want to challenge? No. I change myself and become rigid. How dare you challenge me? You should have challenged me before I become rigid. Now why you challenge me? No. Maybe that's the reason why as I mentioned earlier, I'm not a civil servant, but maybe His Majesty is doing all of this transformation in order to give opportunity for creativity. No? And I'm sure that after this creative is done, there will be a systematic, that will also need it, as you mentioned earlier. Everybody needs an illusion of permanency, or nobody will get married. No?
Last, there's a student there.
Hello. So, my name is Pimokin Naljamso. I'm currently studying in the 12th grade in Yansan for Higher Secondary School. And as Rinpoche earlier mentions that transformation starts from the day we were born, my question is that
physical transformation.
My question is that what role would personal growth and progress play in one's spiritual journey?
I think that when we talk of personal growth, what is our definition of personal growth? Because personal growth can be negative as well as positive, right? For example, I think in our younger generation, sometimes I see that many young people, when they don't like something that people say, their friend said, they block them. No? They say, I block. And then somebody else, your uncle, he's a very kind person but very nosy, wants to know where you're going, what you're doing. Again, you block them. Then you block. And after some time, they say, I feel very lonely. Nobody seems to care whether I live or die. Nobody even asks me. But how to ask? You block them. So if you learn over the life, you learn that nobody in a life, including yourself, is 100% negative or 100% positive. If we want to live in the society, have a relationship with our family, father, mother, husband, wife, in the future, our wife, we will have to accept that people have both positive and negative sides. Even in our church, it's written that even when you're looking for a guru, in the degenerate time, you will not find a guru that 100% perfect. You have to find a guru that is 70% perfect and 30% you have to close your eye. You cannot find in degenerate time. But if the guru is 70% negative and only 30% good, avoid that guru. So similarly in our life also, people, we have to accept people with their good and bad quality. We have to accept both. Otherwise, we will definitely be left alone unless you met Guru Rinpoche or Chizen Duma, But then again, whether we find them perfect or not is also our perception. Perfection itself is a perception. An idea of a perfection creates the idea of imperfection. These are dual reality. That is, when you have a very strong idea of a perfect, imperfect concept gets created at the same time. So personal growth, what do we mean by personal growth? Right? Personal growth can mean, I don't need anybody in my life. I don't need. That is, does that all through personal growth, especially life itself is the best teacher actually. Buddha has said, learn from the life. For example, through social media, we see so many things, that people buying bags and, buying this and doing that, and they look very happy. But in our own life, when we put so much effort to buy these things, do we really feel happy? Maybe for a short time, yes. But after that, do we really feel happy? Right? Do we really feel happy when we are, we live in a YOLO? We think we are independent. I don't need anybody. We say the Sigma male is someone who doesn't need anybody. The 21st male, that the social media are very smart. According to what you read the most, they send you that post, But when you really live like that, the Sigma male or this male, not needing anybody, they say, when you have the freedom to do whatever you want and nobody cares, is that freedom or is that loneliness? So life itself is the biggest teacher. Yes, watch the social media, but social media is put there because, again, it goes to Samba Semke. There's a motivation behind that. And the motivation of the most of the social media is to create discontent in others, in ourselves. Only when we are discontent, we will buy something. If social media says, your dress looks very nice, you are the most beautiful, well-dressed, you won't go and do shopping. No? So we always have to check the motivation. Right? So that's why, what does personal growth mean? So personal growth means that through the life, we understand ourselves, we understand others' intention, we understand both good and bad in others. Then I think it is spiritual growth.
Yes, thank you, Rinpoche. I thought I saw some hands this side of the hall. Les, at the back. We are almost at the end of our time, so if you can be brief, thank you.
I want to take from Rinpoche's comment on if you transform mind, even a politician Buddha could be there. So with this, I was thinking like when we think about develop Bhutan or transformation, what comes in my mind is just mind. Values mind, spirituality mind, and progress is mind. So I just want to hear the view from Rinpoche. What if the new parliament or there's new executive order that 1% of our development budget is allocated for transforming mind? What could be the changes of transformation? Does it change the game of planning or transformation? Other aspect is I was thinking about what if there's a sabbatical leave for civil servants to transform mind rather than having some other kinds of trainings? So what would be your say on this? If there's a change in the government decision that, okay, first parliament, new government decides that 1% of budget is allocated for training minds programs. Or on the other hand, civil servant decides that there's sabbatical leave to transform minds. So what could be your opinion and say on this?
About the government budget, Chitang, whenever I meet any Bhutanese, Lumpos, I always appreciate them and respect them, because from my perspective, Bhutan is a Buddhist kingdom, Buddhist country, and I may be wrong, but from what little bit I read, a large amount of budget is already allocated for spirituality, tatsangs. When I went to Singizong, it was so far away. It was 3 days of walk. But when I reached up there, our temples were beautifully preserved. Monks were given, I think, the salary, even the budget for the talk offering, everything. And sometimes I'm sure there must be some tussle between culture and the budgeting. Lamme want more talk, but less talk from the culture, But still, it is there. And why is that? Because in a Bhutan, from the wisdom of the successive spiritual monarch and the spiritual ministers have understood and valued the spirituality. So it is there. It has always been there. My question now is not that it is not there in Bhutan. Financially, I don't understand much, but a little bit understand. I think there is a lot of financial already allocated for spirituality. It is just that sometimes we allocate it because it's in the rule. But I think we need to now allocate it not just out of rule, but by understanding the importance of spirituality, importance of the mindfulness. So the leader, they themselves can also, develop their own mindfulness. Maybe they're already doing through whatever their way. And of course, for the civil servant, if there's a time allocated for developing spiritual practices, I definitely think it will be very beneficial. Because physical body can be trained through physical exercise. Mental training can be trained through mental practices. That's why in our church, when I was the very starting of the spiritual practices, there are prayers like, may I be benefit to all the sentient beings, may all sentient beings be happy, may all free from suffering. I used to think that's very impractical. How can I make all sentient beings happy? All free from suffering. But later I realized that every time we do this prayer from the depth of our heart, we expand our heart. That's why it's called Sampa Semket. Semket means gyake. Tatu sem di chunku be, lachi beru, lochi labru, ngaragi family. As soon as we get up in the morning, how many of us can say that first thing I say to my wife, did you sleep well? Or first thing we'll say is, I didn't sleep well, get me a cup of coffee, right? That shows that, I personally don't believe much in the racism and the regionalism. I always believe that all of the racism we have arises because inequality we see is because deep inside our heart, we all think that we are the most important. And that is what we need to overcome through the mental practices. So every time when we say, may all the sentient beings be happy, we are training our mind. Last 2 years ago, I met the CEO of one of the biggest banks in Singapore. He's, he also does mindfulness. So he was asking me, he's thinking about retiring. So he was telling me, he wants to, because he's my close friend. So he was telling me, I want to retire, but, honestly speaking, if I retire, will I still be relevant? Will I still feel relevant that I have a place in the society? So I was sharing to my friend, he and his wife were there. I was saying that whether you feel relevant has a two aspect. One is whether you feel relevant, and second is whether society feels you are relevant. And I was saying that when I was in the Singizong, that time the people who came to drop me, they went back, and I heard that time there was an accident from that the highway between the Mongar and the Guru Zampa. The one couple, very sadly, husband and wife, they they died. They lost, I think, the car. And I remember that time I was praying in the Singizong Chapu, and I think maybe because of Guru Rinpoche and Khamtrul Sukha's blessing, I think tears came to my eyes. Immediately when I thought of that, a young couple lost their life. Nobody come and asked me to give the 500 rupees and said, Rinpoche, I just heard. But from the depth of my heart, I felt so much of sadness for them. And I thought, since I am in the Singizong, blessed of Guru Rinpoche, I dedicate my practice, for them. And I said, I felt so relevant. I felt so meaningful, even though I'm doing nothing in a cave where there's not even a light, But I feel relevant. So when we feel relevant, there is the inner aspect, that is whether you yourself feel that you are doing something that's meaningful, benefit others, that's your relevant. Now whether society feels relevant or not, it depends on the work you are doing. If you are doing something that is impacting the society in whatever form, you will be relevant. And I always say that lamb chops, if you want to be successful, I remember reading the Dale Carnegie's book about how to be popular, etc. I think he said something that if you can be someone who considers others, you will be definitely popular, because there are very few people who do that. Isn't that true? So I always say, even lamb chop, if you want to be successful, you don't have to, think many, the complicated things. All lamb chop has to do is, what can I do that will benefit others? If you are good at chokutani, whenever you're invited to go to choku, happily go. Start at 8 a.m., stay till 5 p.m., don't touch mobile phone, don't eat meat. Whether they offer you 1,000 or 100, don't care about it. Do it 100%. I guarantee you, you will be the most successful choku person, chokulam in the whole of Bhutan. You will be in demand. Why? Because what you are doing has a benefit to others. So relevancy, and I think even the success, comes from fulfilling the need of others.
Blessed Rinpoche, thank you. That's really powerful. Perhaps I should ask my last question, Rinpoche. And again, since we are a leadership institute, and many of the people in the audience are public servants. One model that is used in contemporary leadership coaching is called the thought model. And that basically, of course, Rinpoche, you touched earlier on thought. And the model says basically circumstances happen and they are facts, they're beyond your control. But because of the circumstances, then certain thoughts come to your mind. And based on those thoughts, then you have different feelings and different, that results in different actions, and finally you get the outcome. So from a spiritual perspective, what would be the best ways for all of us to really control our thoughts or channel our thoughts in the right way? Because ultimately, at least the model says that everything else, including the results, depend on your thoughts. And thoughts looks like are under our control, but I'm wondering what will be the best ways for all of us to be able to control our thoughts so that whatever we do, as whoever we may be, result in something good for society at large.
Yes. Actually, controlling thought or kind of channeling our thoughts in a positive way is the spiritual practice. And I remember that Hema, my Singapore Joda, one of my friends, he was telling me, Yulam Chops are every day telling us to Benza Guru. Every day he does 2 hours Benza Guru. Pentokachi Yugas. That's sarcastic being a love then. My yeah, joke sarcastic be. Chulu Pentoro Matoro, Amsalul Pentobes. Because every day they get 2 hours peace from you. That is the benefit. So, but I was joking in a way, but in a way that if we take every practice as a way of transforming mind, even if you're doing 15 minutes of practice, your body is not harming other sentient being. Your speech is not lying, saying hurtful words, creating division, gossiping. Your mind is trained on the, for example, Guru Padma Sambhava. And what does Guru Padma Sambhava inspire in us? Compassion, wisdom. And what will we generate towards sentient being? Generate well wishes towards sentient being, compassion, temporary happiness, hearing, neme, thartu sanje kopang. So if you do that on a daily basis, imagine what kind of thought process, pattern of thought, and pattern of thought repeated becomes personality that we are developing. So at the end of the day, we can't really, I don't have the answer which says that you don't need to do any spiritual practice, but you can tame your thought. And even when we do spiritual practices, we fail many times. I myself too. When we do retreat, we come out of retreat, the mind is, our mind also so clear, so wise that when we read any picture, we can understand it, the meaning, because the clarity of the mind. We see things. Then as we get involved in the society a lot, our mind also gets dull. And then when you retreat again, so if you don't do anything, and I think it will be very difficult. We have to create the conditions to tame our mind. And not only about processing the thought, but about understanding the origins of the thought. Where does the thought come from? Where does it go? The origination of the thought. I think that is also equal. That is part where I think the mindfulness and all of that, you play a large part. There is no mindfulness meditation where you totally prevent any thought and stay in a blank. There is no meditation like that, especially in the Vajrayana. Vajrayana that's why Vajrayana meditation is also very unique. We don't close our eyes. Because the idea is not about closing your eyes and ears, but it's about see everything, but see things as it is. For example, you see a cup. Right now we see the cup, we say, oh, from Bangkok, must be worth this much. Or from India, maybe not worth. We put value. So we don't see things as they are. Similarly, what the sound we hear, criticism, compliment from someone we know, gives you a nickname is endearment. Someone you don't know is harassment, right? So similarly, our emotional thought also has its own identity, which is beyond definition. So these parts are related much more to deeper practices of the mindfulness. So this part, and this, if we do the meditation, that also where opportunities for new ideas come. The reason why new ideas are blocked are because, for example, if I'm 100% convinced that this cup is a cup, then I will be limited to this cup being no more than a cup. But if I understand this is not necessarily a cup, it's just the right cause conditioned, maybe this cup can become, I don't know, maybe can use it for some other purposes too. I can use it, because basically this is also ceramic, the toilet pot is also ceramic. Our definition has created one is so right. So that's why I think that that's also the reason why, from the Buddhist perspective, we say sipa kamsum korwa, where anything is possible, because every value that we have put, everything that people spend money on, is a conceptual rather than a reality, right? That is why if you're able to market it, I once heard that there was a businessman in Singapore. His meditation is Sherab Nyingbola. So in the Heart Sutra. So if you are Buddhist, we read Heart Sutra, we will think, how come? Because Sherab Nyingbo says, Zume, Dame, Time, there's no form, there's no sound. And I remember when we were children, we used to say, Thali me, Pop me, To me, nothing is there. But if you deep into it, what Buddha meant to say is that nothing has an inherent reality. Reality, values, price is the definition that is conceptually created by individual and society. So that is why a bag called Hermes can be worth $10,000. Bag has no value. Our definition has created by the marketing value, etc. So that was not an object. Object doesn't have a value. It doesn't have a value in the price. It doesn't in terms of value of beauty also. Even if you are the most beautiful girl in Bhutan, if a tiger comes, they will say, oh, good breakfast. I don't think tiger will fall in love with you. It's a human concept. So the meditation in that part is about, more about seeing things as they are. And from there, the creativity comes. Because if you are fixed that something is there, unchangeable, ultimate reality, the creativity will not come, because you think cup is a cup. There's nothing you can do. But if you know that cup is a ceramic due to cause condition, cup, you can melt it down, you can change it into, I don't know, many things too. So that is why the mindfulness part has a many aspects.
Las Rinpoche, thank you so much. Finally, I would like to offer you a few minutes, Rinpoche, to perhaps share your final thoughts on anything that you feel is relevant to this audience, and also that I have not been able to capture in my questions.
I just I forgot to mention earlier that when I was talking about the Gyalwa mindfulness part, I talked to also a lot of international people. Yes. I noticed that those who are younger, like in their late 30s and all, they don't seem to have much, idea about it. Because I think at that age, you're purely economical, immediate economic. But whenever I talk to people who are CEOs, like one of my friend, the banker, he even advises Prime Minister Modi. So when people like that, when I talk to them, they are very excited about the mindfulness, because they're saying that with all of this, yes, it is true that we as a world has developed, the materially we have developed economic development there, but there's so much of changes, uncertainty, mental problem, loneliness, isolation in the world, that what His Majesty, that Gyalwa mindfulness city is something that is very much needed, that is very exciting. So I feel that that is something that that many of those who are, I feel that maybe it's my own guess, but I feel that in the future, I think there will be many type of people who will be coming to Gyalwa. Some will be type who have had enough of the material wealth, success. Now they're looking for a sense of peace, a well-being in environment where the spirituality, the values are there. That part will be there. And some, I'm sure it will be like the short-term Nekor, all the things that's happening in the Bodh Gaya, and all of this event, I'm sure will also be happening, then, and some, I think, from other economic incentives, which I am not familiar with. So I think that, there's something that I very much look forward to. And recently, usually I don't celebrate, but this Losar, we had a big celebration, up there in the Kabisa monastery, because we had people all over from Ladakh, Karsha, Sikkim, international, all coming to the retreat. And Kabisa monastery, I think till now, I think we have had almost since from its inception till now, almost 5,000 people have joined the retreat over the year. So I think that, and many of them have been international. So I think when they are willing to come all the way to Bhutan, because of the Bhutan speciality, I think there's a lot of hope. So, and I think that Bhutan has a very good future there, because I think future, you have immediate future, long-term future, and long-term future. So I feel that with immediate future, with the new government, very leader, I think the immediately is a very good future. There are long-term future, I think we have the Gelifu. There are long-term, this Sanjay Gobang, we have Chabje, and all the great masters, So I think we have a very good future to look forward to.
Les Rinpoche, thank you so much for this very enlightening talk. And on that very hopeful, aspirational, positive note, we come to the end of this dialogue. It's been such an honor and a blessing for me personally, and for all of us to listen to Rinpoche this evening. Thank you so much really for sparing your very valuable time with us, and for sharing a lot of wisdom and insights on a wide range of subjects. I have no doubt the members of the audience here will take away so much from today's discussion. So much to reflect on also, and to practice in our day-to-day lives wherever we come from. I would also like to thank Mijay Lunchin, all the Limpos, Dashos, and everyone here in the audience for being with us this evening, and we do look forward to your support and participation in the future as well. Finally, Rinpoche, on behalf of the Institute, with all our humble wishes and prayers for your continued well-being, for the benefit of all sentient beings, we would like to hand over to you a little token of appreciation. Thank you so much. Thank you.